press with the #1 fuel efficient. I don't care. It's funny how we got to that because Hyundai made that claim. And I immediately called the editor of the newspaper and put it out and said, time out. They're not the highest fuel efficient brand in the United States. We are. That was the claim they were trying to make. And then I furthered that by thinking, well, we already exceed 2016. So anyway, the future is where we are today with our car. You know, we're in a bad economy. We're low gas prices. You know, small cars are seemingly taking a back seat, no pun intended, taking a back seat to the car. By the way, you know, I started to say that when we were going around and we didn't really have any cars on the road, and people were asking about, well, who's going to be attracted to this car? And I talked about teenagers. I said, what better car could you get for your teenager than a car without a back seat? And everybody was kind of laughing like that because of the double entendre in that. But the fact of the matter is that, and remember back when we were that age, I remember what I used to do. You know, I'd blindfold the guy that was driving. See how smart you are now, you know? All the stupid things you do as teenagers. Well, the IHS finally has come out now, about a year ago, and they said, I can't figure out if they're our friend or not our friend. 1 minute we're the greatest, the next minute we're not. Anyway, but they came out and said that the number of passengers in a car with a teenager, a new driver, I say teenagers, is directly related to the percentage of probability that they're going to be in an accident. And some states have limited, until you've driven for 18 months, they've limited to 1 passenger. So this is a real selling feature. The other thing you keep in mind for teenagers, and I know as a parent, the first thing I did for my daughter was buy her a pre-dented car, and I tried to get her the biggest car, you know, with thinking that was going to be safe. Well, think back when you're 16 years old. Do you want to navigate this big SUV? I mean, those are hard to drive. Think when they get to a space where they have to parallel park, you know, the anxiety level goes up 100 times, and they can't do it, and self-confidence suffers, and all the things that we experience as teenagers. You get into a smart, that car is so easy to handle. That with the turning radius and the ease of handling and the safety of this car, that's now not only proven. I tell people, I get interviewed now by reporters, don't talk to me. You don't have to talk to me, talk to our owners. In fact, when the IHS came out and said bigger will beat smaller, and Jim Healy from the USA Today was going to write a big expose on it. He's going to do a 2-page article in USA Today on how right they were. And I said, before you do that, Jim, I want you to call Cynthia Scholander right here in Washington, D.C. And I want you to talk to her. And I want you to tell her, you that story about how she was driven off the road by a drunk driver into a ditch, right head on into a tree. The police that were on the scene called the morgue, and she walked right out of that car without a scratch, with a headache. And that was it. And he ended up writing a story that was more positive than negative about SMART. And I said, you don't have to listen to a talking head. You don't have to listen to the IHS. You don't have to listen to the NHTSA. Go to safeandsmart.com now. And you can see the stories about how this car is performing in accident avoidance and in accident situations. And find out from people what happens on the roads. And that's the safety story. And I said, if you want to really start using the IHS statistics, go to their own statistics that'll show the fatality rate of a mid-size car segment is higher than the fatality rate of the small car segment. So their own statistics dispute what they were saying. And the one quote they did use when I got to debate them finally was, if you take your argument to the nth degree, we'll all be driving 18-wheelers. And I don't think that's where our society is going to go. Because yeah, something will always trump something. You can throw an SUV off Lookout Mountain. I don't think the outcome is going to be too good if somebody's in the car. So, you know, you can take everything to the point of being ridiculous. I said, if you want to do that, Smart's half the size of a standard vehicle. So logic will tell you, you've got to have the chance of even being hit. And I do that with people. But we don't have to do that.
How many times is
because now we've got the actual things that are going on with the car to point to with people. So it's really exciting as we get as we get more stories about our car. I was mentioning at dinner, I think we got a chance to be one of the, probably the lowest overall cost of ownership car in the United States. You know, it's not only one thing you look at that measures the cost of ownership. It's not just the price of gas. It's the price of insurance, it's the price of maintenance, it's the depreciation of a car, it's the initial cost of the car. And when you start to add all those things up, our car starts to look really, really good. I was mentioning that I had put out an alert to all the dealers. I wanted them to tell me when, and somebody may have had a brake job with lower miles on it, but I wanted to know when the first brake job was done in the Smart 451. And it came back from Dallas, Smart Center Dallas. They had the they had a brake job. It was done at 50,000 miles, and there was still wear left on the brakes, but the owner wanted the brakes changed. They couldn't even change the tires on them. They couldn't recommend changing the tires on them. There's still tread left on the tire. So this guy drove a lot on the highway. The car is very light, but it just proved the fact that our wear and tear on some of these things are going to be very short. You know, they're not going to, are very long, and the costs are going to be very low. So we have a lot of, you know, the story is being told chapter by chapter in the United States, and when the book is finally in this last chapter, we're going to see a lot more cars on the road like a Smart than a car not like a Smart. I'm going to tell you a quick story, and I wanted to just bring back some of just the great things about the launch of the car. You know, the people that I met along the way. Bill Roberts came. He got me a gift. He remembered I met him in Orlando. Now I remember the day. But I was at an event like this in Orlando around the first anniversary, and I had my Smart pin on me. He goes, "Where can I get one of those Smart pins?" I took it off and I gave it to him. I said, "Here, I have mine." And see him. There he is. He's got it right there. And you see, I don't have any anymore because I keep giving mine away. But he comes to me with a gift, and he said, "You know, when I get a gift, I like to return." He surprised me with this, and it's a wonderful cartoon. Read it. And it's the Shoe comic that's syndicated throughout the United States. And a guy pulls up in his car. He says, "Fill her up." "Yes, thank you. I've been driving nonstop all day. It might even take one whole gallon." And the attendant says, "Wow, this must be one of those Smart cars." And the driver says, "Indeed it is." And the attendant says, "Just how smart is it?" "Well, last week it balanced my checkbook." The attendant said, "Well, that's pretty smart." The driver says, "Well, actually, that's nothing. This morning it got accepted to Stanford." You know you made it when you hit the comic page. So, Bill, thank you for that. That was awful kind of you. And just meeting wonderful people like that, which brings me to the story of Smart Center Dallas. When we first launched the brand in January, we sold our first car January 16, 2008. And there was a owner in Dallas. He had put his reservation in very early in the process. Well, we only had one dealer in Dallas, so he was long in the line. And he called the dealership and said, "Look, I had to retire from the Army. His colonel, his name's Roger Thompson, Colonel Roger Thompson." He said, "I had to retire from the Army. I got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and I've been fighting it for 2 years, but I really don't have long to live, and I really want to get my Smart 4.2, you know, before a time comes that I move on." And so the Smart Center found a way to get him a car. It wasn't exactly what he wanted. And I heard the story, and I wanted to go down there, and I actually got him the panels, yellow panels. I wanted to yell at them up. And I brought him the panels, and we swapped them.
I knew it.
January 2008. But what was remarkable about Colonel Thompson, after he took delivery of the car, he was being interviewed, as many of you were when you were one of the first to take delivery of the car. And he and his wife were being interviewed by a station, and his wife said, "You know, Roger hasn't even driven a car in 14 months. He hasn't had the strength to do it. His only goal in life right now is to be seen by as many people as possible in his Smart 4.2. In fact, when he goes for his chemotherapy at Baylor University, they let him take his chemo right inside the entrance because so many people want to know about his car. So as he's getting his chemotherapy, he's talking about Smart. And it really has rejuvenated him and gave him so